everyone. Welcome to the Global Dialogue for Justice special presentation regarding the implications of the state of emergency and the decree laws to innocent people in the country of Turkey as a whole. But before we continue, on behalf of the Global Dialogue for Justice, our friends, my fellow Americans, I would like to express our deepest condolences to the family and friends of Nahit Emre Güney. This kind of tragedy should never happen to innocent people, especially to innocent young lives. Nahit Emre, may you rest in peace. You will never be forgotten. So it's a great pleasure and a huge honor to welcome and introduce to you someone whom I admire very much for his courage, his resilience, and for all his unbelievable and fearless ways fighting for justice, for his country, for his people. Dr. Bayram, thank you very much for joining me tonight and morning to other places in the world and joining me on this special presentation. Please say hello to our viewers. Introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Merjina, for inviting me for your program. I look pleased as much as, or whatever I can, do for the sake of humanity and human rights, basically.
So you just published this research that has documented part of history, an important history for Turkey. Can you tell us, share our viewers, especially people and globally that has never heard yet or probably heard, give us an overview of this report.
Well, the report basically brings out or points out or try to create awareness for what is happening in Turkey. You might guess from what has happened in Nazi Germany. They were the best in manipulation, black propaganda, as you know, all those things, all those deception, manipulation, all those things. And the same things are occurring in Turkey. Many people are not aware of it, might not be aware of it, but same things are happening in Turkey, unfortunately. So there is a silent genocide, or there is a silent crimes against humanity occurring in Turkey. People are being driven to suicide intentionally, systematically. And as you mentioned, the name of that person, that young person, he was 18, if I'm not wrong, and he is not the only one, to be honest. In our reports, not this one, but previous reports, you may see you may see the reports of children committing suicide at the age of 12 or 13, elderly, young men, young women, this or that. These things are not coincidental. They are the product of premeditated policies, often how should I say, genocidal government, which is or that is motivated by a political Islamist agenda. I have nothing to do with Islam, to be honest. Islam means peace. Everybody says that. Okay, that's okay. But you might say that, okay, if Islam means peace, where are those terrorists coming from? Yeah, you might wonder, because ordinary American would ask that. Okay, if Islam means peace, we don't see Muslims as peaceful people. All those Al-Qaeda, ISIS, all those things, all those people are committing all sorts of crimes. How come Islam could be peaceful then? You might wonder. Well, it is not the Islam itself, actually, the problem. It is political, um, uh, political commentary of Islam and selective reading of Quran or selective reading of the Hadith, this and that. And this political Islam is how should I say, enemies of humanity. To be honest, today we are facing what they are doing in the Middle East. Turkey might call itself in Europe, but to be honest, we are not fully in Europe. We are half Middle Eastern, half European. So since we are at that crossroad, so political Islam is more Middle Eastern than European, to be honest. Political Islam gets it is how should I say motivation, or it is how should I say approval from radical radical commentary of the text, and then what happens in that text? That text gives those radical people to kill anyone who do not think like them. Actually, I ask people to look at this ISIS videos. ISIS is the epitome of what political Islam is, to be honest. And we are facing the same agenda in Turkey, but these people do not behead people in front of TVs. They drive young men, young women, young boys, young girls into suicide, or allow them to be killed through through ill healthcare or lack of healthcare, lack of nutrition, this and that, basically. Since many young men, young women, young boys are killed through malnutrition, ill health, or due to psychological pressure, this and that. People looking from outside might think that these are ordinary things. These are natural deaths. In fact, these are not natural deaths. These are premeditated outcomes of a genocidal policy of this political Islamist regime. So I would like to warn people of the world that please do not be fooled by the propaganda of these evil people with smiling faces. They might be smiling at you, but in fact, they are enemies of humanity and killing thousands of people without care, without care to their existence, without care to their rights. So that I actually warn people to be aware of this, how should I say, genocidal people, let's say. That's enough for me for now. Please, you take care. You take over, Merjina, please. I cannot hear you, Merjina.
Dr. Bayram, based on the recent published study that your Justice for Victims platform released, there is there is 500,000 direct victims, 3 million indirect victims, 84 million victimized. Our audience from outside Turkey are not they're not familiar with this. What do you say? What happens to the 500,000 direct victims?
Yeah.
How are they getting justice, and what do you think of the future when there's something like this happening and the world doesn't know? The world is, and if they know, even the countries that know about this are silent. What do you think is going to happen, and what
Yeah.
can we do as members of the global community to raise awareness of these massive crimes against humanity?
Well, to be honest, I cannot blame people living outside Turkey because, as I told you, they are being deceived by black propaganda or white propaganda, depends on which way you look at the same propaganda, as you know. Deception of a cunning regime, basically. But to be honest, I'd like to express the situation in Turkey that we are living in dark ages of Europe. Okay, that the 11th, 12th, 13th century, this and that. In the dark ages of Europe, people could have been targeted as witches or sorcerers, this and that. Same things are happening in Turkey. You might wonder how or why. Because in our report, the report brings out or points out a, a government edict, basically, a government edict. Emergency decree means an edict. Okay, it says in the emergency decree that people will be or should be are to be punished on the basis of assessments, not on the basis of evidence, but on the basis of assessments. People are in Turkey. People are being punished for life, not just themselves, but their family members, their children, their brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers. They are being punished on the basis of government assessment. How are these assessments are done? Well, the details obviously are in our reports. But basically, if government sees someone as opposing to their policies, and or if they see someone occupying a place that government and its cronies set their eyes on, let's say at a university post or at a court post, this and that, or anywhere. If the government thinks that that post should be evacuated and it should be belong to their cronies or their supporters, then they find a way, some way, to criminalize you, and they pass that edict, government edict, emergency decree says that we can criminalize, we can label anybody as terrorists based on our own evaluations. And we know how they evaluated people. If they don't see that somebody is not fit to their policies, then they find they make a claim that you talk to a terrorist recently. You talk to a terrorist. Believe you me, thousands of people are being court tried by being phoned from public phones. You may wonder how come in this day and age, But believe you me, look at the report, you will see that thousands of people were being convicted as terrorists for being called from an openly used public phones. People may wonder, it can't be happening, but it is happening. And what I would say is not journal stories. These all things are happening in courts in Turkey, happening in government offices in Turkey. Believe you me, thousands of people are in jail right now on this pretext that somebody called you from a public phone. Well, nobody, and people ask, okay, let's say I'm being called from a public phone. What did we talk? No, there is no information on that. Just they said, in essence, they said, look, we found you, or we labeled you, we selected you as terrorists, as criminals, so that you will be jailed, you will be targeted, or anyway, you will be getting all sorts of slander, all those accusations, this and that, just for being not good enough supporter of this genocidal regime. This is the situation. So I'd like to warn everybody to look into what is happening in Turkey, and then they will see what is going on, and they will see how truth I am telling about.
Dr. Bayram, so there are, people are getting arrested and tortured, and but based on, like the report said, just based on suspicion. There's no proof, there's no evidence, and this includes those mothers now with babies in prison. And we've talked about this from previous Global Dialogue for Justice. And how can the government of Turkey get away? I'm pretty sure that countries in Europe, and including my country, the United States, are aware of this and what's happening. And at the same time, nothing is being done. And this is unbelievable in the 21st century, and that we have the advances in technology and we can easily connect and engage with people. And it seems to me that the world is completely silent and blind and muted on this. And your report has actually classified these as crimes against humanity, and we know this very well. There is no expiration date for when seeking accountability and justice. So, Dr. Bayram, this is your report, and the Justice for Victims platforms has done a wonderful job in documenting these crimes against humanity and the genocidal, societal genocide. What is next? How are you going to disseminate or make people understand outside Turkey, or even do presentations of this report? Because I think it's very, very educational, for educational purposes, for people around the world, that they must know this. What is your plan and your team to be able to get this across outside of Turkey as well?
First of all, this government gets away from its crimes through two things, through two ways. First of all, they use deception. As I told you, they use black propaganda. They say that, look, we are fighting a terrorist group. We are fighting criminals, radical terrorists. So please let us do what we want. Allow us do what we want, so that we can deal with terrorists efficiently. This is one way of convincing people outside of Turkey. The second way is blackmailing. Government blackmail European countries, especially European countries, by refugees from Middle East, especially from Syria. Millions of people are living in Turkey now. A government, in a sense, threatens European governments. Our Turkish government threatens European governments that, look, if you somehow displease me or put pressure on my genocidal policies, I will open the borders of Turkey and send all those Syrians, Afghans, Iranians, Iraqis, Libyans, all those. I mean, even some people from Middle Asia, from Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, China, this and that. I will send these, maybe they might actually add up to 10 million, believe you me. I mean, officially there are 4 or 5 million, but you know that there are some unofficial numbers too. So that European government keep their silence, not to put in a difficult position, because their public would obviously oppose getting at least 4 or 5 million refugees at their borders, so that government, by blackmailing, you know, as the and then propaganda, keep its policies unopposed by any major governments of the world. About disseminating this report, we are trying to translate it in English. Hopefully, could be published in a few months in English. By the way, I've got travel ban. Just for your information, you might guess, because I'm not a fan of our beloved leader. Since I'm not fan of this genocidal government and its leader, so I have got a travel ban. I cannot travel abroad. Despite I was put on charges, terrorism charges. I myself put on terrorism charges. Luckily, I was vindicated, but by their own court somehow, because they couldn't prove that I was a terrorist or I did some terrorist actions, this and that. No, I'm an academic. I'm not a terrorist. But for these genocidal people, genocidal bureaucracy, anyone who do not support them are potential terrorists anyway. Did you know that officially over 1.5 million people were tried on terrorism charges in Turkey? I made an evaluation or special analysis on this issue in my report. If you add up all the terrorists in the world, they don't add up to 500,000. And I said, let us they be 750,000 terrorists in the world, all terrorists in the world. They kill 24,000 people every year, more on average. They sometimes kill 40,000, sometimes kill 5,000. On average, they kill 24,000 people in the world every year. But in Turkey, in the last 6 years, even a single person was not killed by these supposed to be terrorists who were declared terrorists by the government. Even one person was not killed, but over 1.5 million terrorists live in Turkey. If you believe their stories, this is the situation basically. That's why they put pressure on people, on anybody who could be opposing to these policies. That's why so few people openly oppose the policies of this government, because they are very good at manipulating or putting pressure or silencing people, basically. That's why it is quite hard for us to get our voices heard. But by your help, by the people help, people like you, so that we might get our voices heard somehow.
Dr. Bayram, the basis of blackmail, terrorism charges, or I think this can easily be challenged, especially the countries. They're not stupid. The countries around the world that have dealings with Turkey, they know that this is happening and it's gonna bite them in the rear eventually. So I think, especially, can you imagine, terrorists, the babies, the young cadets in prison? They're not terrorists. They're not related to anything terrorism. And all those, academics like you and everybody who lost their jobs. This is a massive crime against innocent people. And the countries outside of Turkey, and like I said, European countries and Western countries, they know the deal. They know what's happening, but they continue to refuse to challenge. And when you say blackmailing, they've done this. Erdogan has done this a few years now. He's been doing this. And so, in my view, countries around the world, the leaders around the world should have been able to, find means and ways to, to combat this, blackmailing of releasing refugees flooding into Europe. They've already flooded Europe already anyways. So this is going to, eventually are going to, they're going to be challenged and they're going to have to pay for this as well. They are just like an accessory of Erdogan to what's going on in Turkey, which is its genocidal regime. They are contributing to the suffering, the enormous suffering of the Turkish people. And, like you said, it's only few people who's, trying to do this. But I think there are people outside of Turkey, Colonel Hossein Demirtas and all these people who have, strong voices working together with people like you inside of Turkey. I think we can give a little more push and a little more stepping up the way we, like me. I'm not Turkish, but like I said, I always say, our compassion, our understanding for people. You don't have to be a Turkish person to understand, to see the babies in prison, to see the torture that's happening, what is in your report, that's happening. I think we have to step up, academic, educators, the mothers, the military, families around the world. And you see Melik Chitenkaya, she's out on the street fighting for those cadets who are in prison. Why can't we band together and join the effort so that the people fighting for justice in Turkey can be heard? And I think this is, wonderful that you've done an excellent report, a study that is going to be part of, history. And I hope that you will teach this at the university. We can't be done in a live stream like this to dissect every item that you've meticulously studied, and all the evidence. I think it's a year's at the university to teach people, the young people especially, can benefit so much from your report. So, Dr. Baram, you said that you're not able to travel, but like I said, we can do Global Dialogue for Justice is a hybrid forum, and maybe people like the Colonel and many others can help us, and with me traveling in different places like in Germany and Belgium and the Netherlands and the US. We can take this report and with you on the other side on online, and we can do a forum to have a discussion on every single item that was the findings in your report. What do you think, Dr. Bayram?
Well, it will be a pleasure for me. I will gladly be doing it. I wouldn't mind being in Turkey and then contributing you through WebEx or Zoom or any other software or communication software. Basically, I'll be pleased. The thing is, I mean, if we turn to the issues you pointed out, whether the European governments or the United States was not aware of what is happening in Turkey, they are aware what is happening. European Commission just published a report on Turkey, and I've got a copy on my computer. It's on my screen as is now. It actually openly says that I'm just going to read one sentence. The constitutional architecture continued to centralize power at the level of presidency without ensuring the sound or effective separation of powers between the executive, legislative, and judiciary. This report, from start to end, actually highlight, points out, criticize what is happening in Turkey. It says that the powers of executive, powers of legislative, powers of judiciary is concentrated in the hands of one man. That one man will hold the keys of everything. The report more or less, actually, to be honest, explain in a diplomatic language, obviously, because I mean the report obviously do not use maybe academic language, but it is obviously explain what is happening in Turkey in a diplomatic language, so European Union know what is happening. But why they don't act? Because the world has enough trouble, I think, because there is a war going on between Ukraine and Russia, as you know. There are many problems with China. Maybe, I don't know, there might be some problems with Myanmar. I don't know what is happening there anyway. India, Iraq, Syria, Libya, this and that. People or governments of European Union and United States might think that we have got more than enough troubles anyway. We don't want one more problem. That is why they might be declining to join in the fight against genocidal government in Turkey. But in the end, somehow, I am sure they are going to get involved in the fight against this government somehow, because as dictators gain more power, they don't just create problems for their own people. They started to create new problems to the world, like what happened, let's say, in Nazi Germany. At the beginning of its power, Hitler, if I'm not wrong, signed a peace agreement with United Kingdom, if I'm not wrong. He signed a peace agreement with Russia, signed a peace agreement with, I don't know, maybe Ottoman Empire, I don't know, I'm not sure, or maybe Turkey, I don't know. But in the end, what happened when Hitler felt confident enough to challenge the states of the world, he started Second World War, as you know, so that it created more, maybe 1,000 times more problems. If Hitler was actually opposed openly on the first day when he came to power in Germany, it more or less same things are happening in Turkey. This government is more or less 20 years is on power, and it created enough problems to the United States, I am sure, to the European Union, I am sure. But somehow they've got some sort of threshold that they think that this government didn't pass to that threshold. But if they go on ignoring what is happening in Turkey, this government, I am sure, would cross their threshold and then will create some sort of problems to the governments of the world, and they would feel they had to intervene to this government. And I hope that it should happen as soon as possible. They are already late anyway.
Well, Dr. Bayram, the European Union and human rights and all these um, agencies around the world, they have the responsibility. That's why they were there and created. And to be silent, to be blind and have these excuses, or the things that you mentioned, that they're probably so stretched out. There's so many problems going on in the world. There's so many wars happening. That's not an excuse for when the time that's there. People around the world will see what happened in Turkey and what's happening right now. um, Everyone that is complacent, that is in power, with a position and influence, that could have done something, will be held accountable. And this is something they're not realized, and people are not, maybe they have to be reminded of their responsibilities. And it's going to happen. It will not be forgotten. This is documented, what we're talking about, what's happening in Turkey, whether or not it's officially out there. And there are so many that don't want to speak out of their experiences. It's gonna come out because we are in the 21st century. We have the technology that documenting this, and so what's gonna happen, Dr. Baram? Turkey, they cannot ignore the enormous suffering of people and the crimes being committed against the innocent, including the very young ones. Um, this is wrong, and I think the global community, if not those powerful countries, I think people have to step up, have to, even the academics around the world, the military families around the world. We just have to let them know, and we just have to reach them. And I think what we're doing here maybe is small, maybe it's not fancy, or we don't have, we're not influencers, and we don't have to be influencers. What we're talking about here is, it's enough as a start. It's a great start. And we have Radi in the United States. We have, the students at the United States that are going to see what we're talking about. And I'll be forwarding the report as soon as it's, published in English. We'll be sharing this document with, the United States and universities in different parts of the world. And Dr. Baram, and I hope that you will continue to, for us to collaborate on this. You are one of, the best academics, researcher, and you understand, me as someone who's doing my publishing in a different way. It's not published the traditional way. I'm here talking to you. It's equivalent to the contents that are created in universities, but I'm traveling the world and exploring topics like this, important issues that's supposed to be taking center stage in the world. and engaging people through conversation, through stories. And I think, and I really thank you, Dr. Varam, for you being supportive of the kind of work that I'm doing. And I hope that I'm not, asking for anything in return, but I just want people to step up and to understand that like your effort and the Justice for Victims platform is doing an amazing job. And I just hope that people will support you in your effort. And I see you every Monday with Miss Norcel. Are you going to continue doing that at the square?
Yes, I'm going to do it as long as it takes, because it is some way it is a trial of courage for me being at that square. I fight these genocidal people through my academic publications, academic writings, and then I go and face them, and in a way I shout at them their crimes, or I be there standing up against them, saying that, look, whatever you do, you will not be silencing me, you will not be scaring me, you will not be intimidating me, you will not be frightening me. I am here, and I will be opposing your policies, whatever you do, because these people uh, arrested Miss Nursel over 100 times. It is no exaggeration, no nothing, no lying this and that. They did it, and despite that, Miss Nursel did not back from what she was doing. So, in a sense, I feel ashamed if I leave her alone at that square. That if I leave her alone, uh, uh, well, I wouldn't feel as a human being. Uh, so that in a sense, it is I'm doing it for my own honor, for my own dignity, not for me obviously, but doing it in a way, uh, all those people, for all those people without voice, like babies, as you said, like women in jail, or men in jail, wouldn't mind, or those people who were murdered by this genocidal regime through, as I told you, through suicides, through ill care, through lack of care, through illnesses, through accidents, this and that, basically. Uh, so that I will be doing what I'm doing uh, as long as it takes, uh, basically. And then I'll be pleased if you keep on following us, keep on supporting us.
Yes, Dr. Varam, and you never know. Maybe one day I'll be able to watch you in person at the square, and with Miss Narcel, and also with Melek. What she's doing is really unbelievable, and she has been the voice of so many people, of so many innocent people, the cadets in prison. They don't deserve to be there, and so she's out there being their voice. And I truly commend her, and she's very inspiring. Nasan Boscourt, I haven't seen her, but she's inspired us with sharing what's going on with the babies in prison. And I know she's there out there, and I would like to wish her well, and everyone that is suffering right now, the victims of enforced disappearance, Hussein Ghalib, Kuchukasi, he doesn't deserve to be in prison. And Narsena has worked so hard to find her father. And these people are really inspiring, and I just hope that more and more young people will step up and partner with you and help you and support you and Ms. Narcel and everyone, the deputy is there, the voice of every Turkish, whether Kurds or not Kurds, and he's the voice. And I wish him the strength and more power to him. So tonight, Dr. Bayram, I'd like to, end and conclude our presentation, hoping that this is not the last. I hope that this will be a series of dialogue with you. Maybe we will take on the spaces on Twitter, and maybe we'll do it soon. And so we can, you can share with the rest of the world what is in the report, and maybe they will, have a true understanding of what's happening in Turkey. So, Dr. Varam, please tell our audience, what is your message to our viewers around the world?
Well, they should keep on supporting human rights, peace, and dignity of humanity. By the way, how or why this government is successful in silencing people, I'd like to point out a few things. These people, genocidal people, do not just target people on their own. Let's say me. Let's say that's as an example. They just do not target me. They target my wife, my children, my brothers, my sisters, even my friends. That is why many people who do not scare for their own lives or for their own interests, they somehow feel obliged to silence themselves for the sake of their children, for the sake of their wives, for the sake of their brothers, for the sake of their sisters. That is the situation. People of the world should know actually what is happening in Turkey, so that they should disseminate this information, and then should pay a visit to their political leaders or community leaders somehow, and then ask them to do whatever they can in their power to stop this genocide in the 21st century, this dark age that is brought to 21st century. Basically, we are living in dark ages in 21st century. So they shouldn't allow this dark age policies go on anymore. They shouldn't allow it. By the way, from the report, I just would like to read one more sentence from this European Commission report. The Commission report says that the judiciary continued to systematically target members of opposition parties in parliament in relation to alleged terrorism-related offenses. Would you believe? Look, I'm an ordinary person. I'm an ordinary academic. They accuse me of being a terrorist, but this government target members of parliaments or parliament parties in parliaments through these same deceptive methods. They somehow associate them either being terrorists or aiding terrorism. And I know recently they accused main opposition party for supporting a terrorist organization through their human right, through their human rights report. Believe you me, the opposition party somehow published a report saying that journalists are being put in prison for no reason, or for some sort of pretexts, on some pretexts, and somehow one journalist released from prison accused for attacking a police actually barracks somehow, but it wasn't right. Actually, it wasn't that person. That that even did never happen. But these people uh, uh, actually, how should I say it, broadcasted that main opposition party supported terrorism against the people, against the country for days. When their lies were discovered, uh, they did not correct their black propaganda. They just stayed silent, remained silent, so that people thought that main opposition party is supporting terrorism. Obviously, their supporters think that opposition party is supporting terrorism. In fact, no, they are the terrorists themselves, but somehow they are very good at, as I told you, black propaganda, manipulation, deception, this and that. So people of the world should know how autocratic regimes, how autocratic leaders act. They shouldn't believe any words of these autocratic leaders, autocratic regimes. They are very good at lying, decepting, uh, deception, obviously, sorry, deception and black propaganda. They should know it and then act accordingly. Thank you very much.
That's very good, Dr. Varam, and thank you for sharing. These, this is so important. To accuse innocent people of terrorism. Did they even define in the Constitution what makes terrorist a terrorist? And based on the report, it's just a basis of suspicion without evidence, and they go to jail for years and years, and they get tortured. And this is something that the world has the responsibility to talk about, even. And the countries that are concerned about human rights, that have dealings with the country of Turkey, have the responsibility and to make this heard. The voices of the people in Turkey must be heard, and all these things that you mentioned must be corrected. That people had just remained silent, or it's going to come back. The justice is going to come back in the heart of Turkey, Dr. Bayram, and it's going to happen. So we're going to continue our conversation, and I hope we take it to another platform on Twitter, on with the Twitter Spaces, and we're going to set it up, and so we can probably do it next week if you are free. We can do the same, the discussion, maybe the highlights of the report while we're waiting for the translation. We can continue to discuss. You can continue helping the global community to understand what's happening in Turkey through the report, even before it's published in English. So I will see you, Dr. Varam, and would like to thank everybody around the world and our friends. And we have quite a few friends in different places in Europe and also in the United States and even in Australia. So until next time, we'll see you soon. Dr. Varam, thank you very much. And to everyone, our friends in Turkey, please, those of you who are having suffering and in pain, and please do not give up. We can hear you, and the world will eventually hear you. So here from the beautiful city of Tbilisi, Republic of Georgia, this is Merj. I'll see you soon. Good night.